time to focus as WSGW presents the people, the places, the businesses, the culture, the area events and activities, all put into focus on 100.5 and 790 News Radio WSGW and online WSGW.com. Focus is brought to you by Northeastern Paint Home Decorating Centers in Saginaw and Bay City. For all your home decorating needs, trust Northeastern Paint Supply, serving you since 1959.
And a good morning to you. Welcome to another edition of Focus here on WSGW. We're going to focus on a subject I wouldn't have even thought about focusing on in the state of Michigan, but I'm going to learn something I know today. We're going to focus on termites and how to get rid of them, and how to protect yourself from them. And we're going to do that with a gentleman who spends his life talking about those things. He is a board-certified entomologist and manager of education and training for Rose Pest Solutions. We say good morning to Mark Vanderwerp. Mark, good morning to you.
Hey, good morning, Art. Great to be on.
Glad to have you with us this morning. I got to start out by saying, if we're talking about the state of Louisiana, Mississippi, southern states, I'm going, yeah, I understand they got a real termite problem down there. I never, ever thought of Michigan as having a termite problem. Does it really?
Yeah, well, you're right when you say the further south you go, the more termites there are.
It has been strange for Michigan to have to look at the bright side of simply playing, as opposed to...
termites are much more of a daily issue than they are up here in Michigan. But believe it or not, we definitely do have some healthy populations of eastern subterranean termites. That's our own native homegrown termite here that we have in North America. And they really extend up about at least about halfway up the lower peninsula and have a pretty good presence in some areas.
Wow. So I have to ask then, is a termite a termite a termite? By that I mean, does termite breed A affect wood the same way as termite breed D? Are they all the same?
Well, there's anytime you talk about the biological world, there is a lot of variation out there, and there's all kinds of different termite species. But for our purposes, because we only have the one species, what everyone thinks of as a generalized termite, that's what we have. So they live in the ground, they tunnel through the soil, and when they find wood, they start to munch on it. You can certainly find some bizarre termites in other parts of the world, but we don't have to worry about those here.
Well, out of curiosity, if you have a home without a basement, or even with a basement, a block basement, and your foundation is just above ground level, and you build your house on that slab or on that foundation, do I hear you say that because the termites are in the soil, they're not going to have impact on your house? Does the wood of your house have to be in the soil to be affected?
So technically, no. Although that is usually how termites find it is when they're moseying around in the soil. So it's always a best practice to make sure you don't have any wood in contact with the soil. At least not structural wood. Obviously, there's going to be mulch and those kinds of things. But even that, it can be a bad practice to have really deep mulch around the structure just because of the fact that is termite food. They eat cellulose, so anything plant-based can go right down their guts and fill up their bellies.
So if I have a house that's got wood in the soil, I mean, is there a way to protect that wood somehow? Is there a coating I can put on there or some kind of repellent?
Sure. I mean, I don't, and I am not a building construction person, and I'm not up on all the codes, but I don't think that you're supposed to be having wood in contact with the soil pretty much ever. I mean, your mailbox post, maybe a deck post, but in general, that shouldn't be occurring if it was constructed properly. But yeah, you can, there are termiticides, things that kill termites that you can treat the soil with under structures. Again, that's more of something that happens with a lot more frequency down south. But like I say, there certainly are places here where people would benefit from that.
So let me ask, I'll tell you what, I got to take a break, and then I'll come back and ask. I want to ask about something that I've experienced and how it compares to termites. We are talking to Mark Vanderwerp. He is an entomologist and trainer with the good folks at Rose Pest Solutions, talking about termites, and we will continue that conversation. Welcome back to Focus. We're talking about termites with Mark Vanderwerp. He is an entomologist and trainer with Rose Pest Solutions. Mark, what's the difference between a termite and a carpenter ant?
Yeah, that's a great question, and frequently ants and termites get confused. So they're very different kinds of insects. Actually, termites, believe it or not, are more closely related to cockroaches, which just gives them a little extra slimy reputation than they already had, right?
Certainly does.
So, one of the big differences biologically is that some ants, like the carpenter ants, will nest inside wood. They prefer, partially rotted wood that's easy to tunnel out, whereas the termites are actually eating the wood for sustenance. But if you just have something in the house, don't know if it's an ant or a termite, a couple quick things you can look for. So the ants have the really narrow, pinched waist. So you see that it almost looks like someone put a big old really tight belt around their middle and cinched it as tight as they could. Termites have kind of a consistent body width all the way down from behind their head to the tip of the back end. And then also, if it's winged ones, which that is really why Termite Awareness Week falls this time of year, is because this is when swarming occurs, and that's when ants and termites send out these reproductive forms that have wings and fly away to establish new colonies. And so when that happens inside of a home, that's probably the main reason most people realize, hey, I got a problem here. And so you really want to make sure you're not mixing up termite and ant swarmers. And an easy way to do that is just look at the wings. If they're all the same size, that's termites. And if they're two different sizes, it's ants, because ants have much smaller hind wings than their front wings.
Aha. All right. So the overwhelming question is, what does a homeowner do if they suspect they have termites?
Yeah, and one thing I'll throw out there, just because the housing market has really gone bananas in the last year. Lots of people moving or becoming first-time homeowners with the pandemic is certainly part of that. And so one thing to put on people's radar is if you're moving or buying a home for the first time, a lot of times, you see a nicely, freshly painted room and you're like, oh, this is great, I won't have to paint this. But when someone who's a little bit pessimistic like myself and has a background in pest management sees a newly painted room, I think, what are they trying to hide? What kind of damage was done in here? So especially when you see if you see like, oh, newly remodeled basement or just painted the garage, those are not exactly big selling points typically. I mean, who cares if the garage is painted? Yeah. So if you hear something like that, boy, that might be a reason to raise a red flag a second. And
so
could this have been termite?
Yeah, let me ask about treating for termites, because they can be anywhere. Do you fumigate the home, or is it spot treatment?
Yeah, so with termites, it really is there's a couple of different ways to do it, but it really is specialized treatments because it's a difficult organism to control because they don't have like a single point where they're at. So, they're kind of meandering throughout the soil. And at any given point in time, the entire colony is not going to be attacking your home. So you really can't fumigate it. So you can do soil treatments that kill the termites that crawl through the soil, or you can do baiting systems. And that's, put bait in these stations in the ground, and the termites come and find it and eat it and take it back to the other colony members and share it, much like ant baits work. And that's what we at Rose primarily do. We use the Centricon baiting system. It's not disruptive. You don't have to drill holes in foundations and that kind of thing to apply it. And it works very well because the termites share the material.
Safe for your pets? Keep your pets away from it?
Yeah, actually, they've this company, it was originally developed by Dow. They won a number of green chemistry awards for this technology because it's such a low volume of pesticide that you use, and it's a special kind of pesticide that just disrupts their molting hormones. So it's relatively non-toxic to mammals, and it's just little discrete stations that are buried in the ground. So contact is essentially zero.
All right, so if somebody suspects termites, wants a pro to come out and take a look, how do they get a hold of you at Rose?
So there certainly can go to rosepestsolutions.com. Call us at 1-800-966-ROSE. Or, just search for Rose online. You will find us. We have a number of offices across the state. Happy to help out.
Well, Mark, we're happy to have you with us this morning. Thanks for joining us.
It was my pleasure. Great talking with you.
We'll talk to you again. Bye-bye.